those failures, they're going to teach you more. So tell me about that failure.
Yeah, so actually, I was a crazy lady. My last year at Columbia, I decided to take 39 credits. So 18 credits in the fall.
Ooh, 39 credits in a year. Wow.
Yes, and 21 credits my last semester, the spring semester. Why did I do that? I don't know. Anywho.
This is going to hurt. It's time for the Suffering Podcast.
Honestly, same thing in middle school and even like my 5th and 6th grade years, same thing. Everyone's like, oh my God, like, who is she? Like, she's beautiful. I'm not trying to, like, toot my own horn, but, like, honestly, like, that's just how it was. And, like, of course, you had some people like, oh, she's not even all that, or she's ugly. But
Which secretly they mean they're looking at you.
It's funny now because these are the same guys that are like, oh my God, like, hi. I'm like, you didn't think I was pretty then. Why are you trying to talk to me now? Like, you know what I'm saying?
They're trying to hope that you have what's called the ugly duckling syndrome.
Babe. Mm-mm.
So you know what the ugly duckling syndrome is.
No.
A woman just hits that maturity and hits that stride and becomes beautiful later in life, but they still have the mentality of the ugly duckling.
Yeah, let me tell you all right now. I look the same when I did like in middle school.
Yeah.
Nothing has changed at all. Maybe a little, gained a little bit more weight, but other than that, I'm still the same person. Like,
So can you pinpoint a time when your mentality changed between this physically scarred person, this emotionally scarred person, to letting people out? Because you have a personality that draws people to you. Okay, and I think that's part of your allure and part of your draw.
Thank you.
Is you have a nice bubbly personality. You're very talkative. You're very well spoken. You're very intelligent. And that when that comes out, when somebody just listens to you for 2 seconds, they don't see anything else. They see that personality. And you got a lot of hair too, which, sort of throws everybody off.
Yeah.
When do you think that started to happen?
In middle school, I still had, my doubts, and I actually got into a big fight in middle school with a boy over the fire. Like, he said something, and I was just like, oh, really? And I threw a desk at him. But anywho,
right.
Yes.
Well.
I think, like, the end of my 8th grade year, that's also when that happened. I was just like, all right, like, yes, this happened to me, but I can't let this affect me, and I'm not going to be one of those people that's just like, this happened to me and my life sucks. Instead, I'm going to use what happened to me to empower myself and to empower others who feel like they're less than, or feel like they're not beautiful or confident or smart or whatever it is. Because it reminded me of when I was younger and, kind of struggling then too, of how it felt and how shitty I felt.
So you hit on something really important there.
Yeah.
You remember that feeling.
Yeah.
Okay. When I lost my friend,
Rest in peace.
I know a lot of people who tried to anesthetize it, who tried to, numb it with alcohol or however coping mechanism they did. And I was, from very early on, because I learned this through my stuff, that I need to feel this pain. I really need to feel this pain. I need to remember this pain because I don't ever want to feel like this again. Yeah. So how, and so what do I do? In order not to feel this way, I better start being more proactive. It sounds like that's what happened to you. You remember that feeling of what it's like to be marginalized, to be put down, to be bullied, and now you're making sure that never happens again to you or anybody else.
Whenever someone would ask what happened to my face, I would always cry, and like I would tell the story crying. They're like, "What the hell is this girl saying?" And then I'd be like, my brother passed away. I was running to fight. They're like, oh, okay, like, got it, right? And I think, like, it was, going to, the end of 8th grade year, going to 9th grade year, I was just like, what is going on with me? Like, people were still asking me, but I wasn't crying. And I wasn't shaking. And I wasn't getting red. And I wasn't getting agitated, right? And I was just like, what is going on? Like, that's so weird. Like, I always cry when I tell this story because it's so,
it's raw,
hurtful and painful and, raw. And I think that's when I was just like, all right, like, what are we doing here? Like, let's see what, happens. And,
your biggest weakness became your biggest strength.
Exactly.
That's what happened.
Yeah.
And it takes a long time to figure it out. You're very fortunate that you were able to figure that out. But you had, since you've been 2 years old, most people's trauma, like I said, hits them in their 20s and stuff. And they're fully functional adults. They already found their way in this, and then all of a sudden the rug's pulled out from underneath them. You didn't have a rug from the time you were 2 years old.
No.
So you had to learn to deal with this. You had to learn different coping mechanisms than most people in this world.
Yeah.
So that's a strength. That's a gift.
Thank
Do you understand it? That's
Yeah.
a gift. Your brother dying, while it is tragic, is a gift because it's a strength. So somewhere in high school, you started. Did you ever? I'm speaking from my own experience. When I first retired from the police department, I was very embarrassed by why I retired. I'm in a shooting. I'm a big tough guy, and I can't deal with it.
You shouldn't be.
But I was.
I know.
So when people would ask me, like, what do you do? Oh, I'm a landscaper. That's what I would say. I'm a landscaper because I didn't want that question. Because if I told them I was a retired police officer, they would say that I was too young. I was 39 when I retired, 38. And they would, you're awful young. What happened? And I didn't want to tell them because I was embarrassed. As time moved on, I just did it today. Like, well, I had to retire because I was in a shooting.
Yeah.
So it became my weakness, became my strength.
Yep.
Where those people who were making fun of you, that what they perceived as their strength, they're able to just put somebody down. It's actually a weakness now. Being 24 years old, you can now look down on you can look at them with some empathy. You're not okay. There's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with me.
God bless. I love you.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
You bless them and block them.
Yeah,
that's
that's
what you
it.
do. So, you're getting closer to high school. You're going to college. Tell me the college you went to. I know you don't want to talk about this, but I do.
Okay. So actually, my college experience is a little interesting. So I graduated high school in 2018, and I got deferred to my top two choices. Unfortunately, it's okay. And so I decided to go to school in Miami, out of all places.
That's not a bad place to go to school.
I know. My dad's telling me that they live in Miami, so I know Miami.
Well, what's your descent?
I'm Puerto Rican.
You're Puerto Rican.
Yes.
Okay, I was going to say if you're Cuban, that's a perfect place to go.
Yeah. So I'm Puerto Rican. And so I went to Barry University, and I was only there for a semester. I hated it. Every single moment and aspect, I hated it.
Too much sunshine?
No, it's just the people, and that club scene is not for me. I feel like I did the concert scene and party scene throughout my high school years. That when I got into college, I was just like, what is this? Like, I already did this. Like, what's next? And so I actually ended up coming home during the end of my first semester, and I literally was 75 pounds. I was a twig, okay? And I was just going through it, and it was kind of hard on me to take a leave and kind of just be like, I'm giving up. That's how I felt in that moment. But and it was difficult, of course, on my parents, and family. And so I ended up taking a gap year, and within that gap year, I worked, I was a paraprofessional in my town school district, and I was working with kids who have special needs, who are on the spectrum, have behavioral issues, you name it, whatever it is. And I loved it. And so I did that until COVID. And then in January 2020, I enrolled into my local community college. I'm a strong advocate for community college, actually. I got my associates in science,
because
high honors.
When you get the 4-year degree, it doesn't say community college. It says whatever college you went to.
Exactly. So I got my associates in science, high honors, in a honor society. And then I was away. I was on a trip, on vacation. And my mom kept on saying, I kept on getting mail from Columbia University. And my mom and I were just like, okay. And my mom was like, no, this is a big deal. And I was just like, okay. I know I'm going back to school. I'm getting my bachelor's, but it wasn't a big deal to me. I was like, okay. I know my grades are there, whatever. And so I applied there. I applied to Hunter College because I wanted to move into the city. I thought I was going to be a city girl. I hate the city now. Anywho, I applied to Hunter, Columbia, and Baruch College, all in the city.
There's
I got
some
in.
different choices,
Yeah,
just so you
I
know. They're vastly different choices.
I know. And I got into Columbia, and I started in January 2022, and I just graduated in May with my BA in psychology.
So you got a BA from Columbia University, and this is that's that community college that you talked about.
Yeah.
You saved. Do you know how much money saved your parents by going to community college?
Oh, I know.
Oh my gosh,
It was great.
And your degree still says Columbia University.
Yep.
So now you're out. You're ready to. You're at 24. You're very idealistic. I'm going to break this news to you. You're very idealistic. You're going to go out there and you're going to change the world. And you're going to get hit in the face with reality. And you've been hit in the face with reality before. So I want you to prepare yourself for that. That it's not all sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah.
There's some ugliness out there, and you're going to fail.
Oh, I can tell you that right now.
But
I have a story for you.
those failures, they're going to teach you more.
Oh,
So
yeah.
tell me about that failure.
Yeah, so actually, I was a crazy lady. My last year at Columbia, I decided to take 39 credits. So 18 credits in the fall.
Ooh, 39 credits in a year. Wow.
Yes, and 21 credits my last semester, the spring semester. Why did I do that? I don't know. Anywho, but I got through it. And so during that time, too, I was actually applying to grad programs for school psychology as well to get my PhD in school psych. And so I applied to 3 schools. My dad, he was, born in Texas but raised in Miami. He's like, you should apply to UF. So I applied to University of Florida. I applied to LSU, and I applied to Tulane. One of my good friends went to Tulane, and I actually went to go visit her when I took my gap year, and I loved it there. Love New Orleans, great spot. And so I got 2 no's from LSU and UF, which I was like, okay, fine. I didn't want to go to Florida and LSU. I mean, whatever, it's fine. But I scored an interview with Tulane, which I was like, yes, let's go. And I was, stressing, and I was talking to my boyfriend. I was like, I don't know, like, why or what possessed me to, like, do all this while working 3 jobs and also, like, applying to grad schools and, like, getting ready for my interview for Tulane. I don't know what, but I did it. And so I had my interview for Tulane, and I was waitlisted. Man, let me tell you, when decisions came out October 15th, and I contacted the professor, and I was just like, hey, I'm waitlisted. Like, what's going on? Like, I want to be a part of your team. Like, I'm excited. She's like, hate to break it to you, but no. And I was like, damn. And I remember, like, I was okay. And, it took me a second to be like, oh, this really hurts, And I felt like the biggest failure, like, ever. Because I was just like, everyone, my, story of college or higher ed is, non-traditional. And all my friends, they're doing great big things. And I'm over here, like, just finishing school, thinking I'm going to go straight into school again. But I think in hindsight, I'm happy that I'm taking a gap year and then going to school again. Because, when I was looking at schools again and whatnot, one of the schools that I was looking at was the U. And I met this amazing girl. She's amazing. She's great. And she told me, I wish I took a gap year before going to the U for grad school. And I said, why? Like, why would you want to do that? She's like, you don't understand. Like, I am so burnt out. She went to UNC, and now she's at the U.
Because everybody's in a rush.
Yeah.
To get to wherever they're going.
Yeah. That's what she said. And she's like, I just want to get this done. She's like, I've been in school for too long. Like, I just want to keep on going. And when she said that, I was like, huh? I was like, I'm not going to feel that way when I finish at Columbia. And now, like, looking back on it, I'm just like, thank God that I'm able to just, work, chill, travel. I'm a part of 2 labs. So I'm a part of a Rutgers University lab, and I'm a part of a University of Georgia lab. And I'm like, I think this is what I needed, because now I know when I, interview and get into the schools that I applied to, I know what they're looking for. I am more, well-rounded. Yeah, and stuff like that.
So you need some practice.
Yeah.
There's a big value to coming to have to work as hard as you have to work in order to get in these places. I mean, you had to work hard to get into Columbia.
Yeah.
Now you're going to have to work hard to get into whatever school you choose to continue your education, because your ultimate goal is to do what you love.
Yep.
And it sounds like you want to be this school psychologist. You want to work with some really. You're going to see some stuff. Wow, you are going to see some stuff.
I love it. I love the bad kids. Give them to me. I love it. Like, I love it all.
But there's no such thing as a bad kid.
No, there's not.
I believe there's no such thing as.
But the ones that are labeled as bad.
There's a lot of bad parents.
Yeah, well.
There's a lot of bad parents. So I'm a big believer. It's just like there's no bad dog. It's a bad owner. There's no bad children. There's bad parents, for whatever reason. But so you could have slipped into that. You understand the fine line you had to walk. You could have slipped into that bad kid category. What do you think was the deciding factor that you didn't go there?
I think, honestly, like, just being stable or grounded within myself, but it wasn't because of me. It was because of the ones that are around me that kind of supported me. They kept on pushing me to continue to go. And I think having that and just, like, not giving up and just, like, being like, I got this and I know what I have to do. Like, that's kind of what kept me, like, going and, like, not crossing over to, I guess, the side that's not so great.
Well, you had a very strong foundation.
Yeah.
So a house can be rebuilt after a fire.
Of course.
But if the foundation's good, you can build on top of that foundation.
Mm-hmm.
If the foundation was no good, it doesn't matter what kind of house you build on top of it.
Yeah.
So you need to be very grateful. Like, this is one thing I'm going to tell you. You really need to be very grateful to that foundation that supported you
Oh,
and
I
held
so
you
am.
up
Yeah.
when you were leaning, when you were unsteady and unsure. And because they're the reason why. I mean, look at all the great things that are going to happen.
Thank you. Yeah.
Look at all the great things that have happened to you.
Yeah.
You know, so I hope that you can see that the way I see that.
Of course.
I see that. So have you had the opportunity to reach out to somebody in your situation who is maybe has some scars that they have to get over?
I think it was high school, my senior year of high school. I actually went back to where I was at St. Barnabas, and I was a teen VIP. And, you see, we didn't go into the burn unit, but we went into the NICU unit and, the kids center and stuff like that. And that's where I was. And just doing the rounds and, like, seeing all the patients that were children that, were struggling on whatever it may be, I was just like, damn. And, having, like, just talking to them or playing a game with them or, asking them, what they like to do and, like, just, having conversations with their parents or, loved ones. That was amazing. And,
But you're the hero. You're the returning gladiator into the stadium who just won the title.
Yeah.
You were there and now you're here.
Yeah.
And that hope, you're going to pass on that hope that your grandparents were giving to the doctors when you were in a bad spot.
Yeah.
That's you now.
During my time at St. Barnabas, I was thinking of, like, reaching out to see about, like, a burn group and, like, see. And I actually was thinking about it, but, like, it was my senior year and, crazy busy. So I never did it. And it's funny, my boyfriend actually, like, asked me about this, like, maybe 2 weeks ago. And I was like, yeah, but I don't know. Like, maybe. So I don't know. We'll see.
So you were given certain gifts in life, right?
Yeah.
Those gifts, and on surface value, they don't look like gifts, but you know that they're gifts now.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know those gifts aren't for free?
Oh, no, of course.
There's a debit that you owe.
Yeah.
And your debit is to help somebody else along who's been in your shoes to try to get them through that sticky spot, the same way your family and your foundation was there to get you through that sticky spot.
Yeah.
And I encourage you to do that, because here's one of the things, it sounds like you're the type of person, especially going into the field that you want to go into, that you feel better making others feel better.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So do you know what kind of lives you would impact
I
if you
know.
were to go in there and
Well,
do
that's
that?
what I'm saying. Like, the kids that I work with, I love it. I love kids. And, like, I was 5. I was like, I want to be a doctor and work with kids as a kid,
Mm-hmm.
And so even the kids that I work with now, and, then I'm like, I love you all. I think for me, something that's really important is molding yourself into each person's needs, right? So, like, children, for example, that's what I work with. You have to mold yourself into each child's needs, right? And, you see their growth over time. And it's just like, wow. And I love that because I was a part of their journey and a part of their growth. And I think for me, that's kind of what draws me into school psychology. And also, of course, like, some of the students that I worked with, they've had trauma, they've had struggles, but being able to kind of, be like, we're going to fix that so you're better, because I know you are so much better than what you're doing right now. And, like, seeing their growth and progress, that means so much to me. And so, like, that kind of, like, solidifies, like, my why and why I want to do school psychology.
Well, if you hadn't gone through what you've gone through,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you would be in the position you are now, as
Yeah.
driven as you are, as successful as you have been up until this point, without pain and suffering.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So we're coming to the end of this thing, and I want my audience to just take a look and find you somewhere. So where can they
Okay.
find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn.
Dejah-Maia DeJesus.
Yeah, Dejah-Maia DeJesus.
Okay.
Yeah.
It just rolls right off the tongue.
Thank you.
So we are coming to the end of this thing here.
Yeah.
And you've gone through suffering that few people can hardly imagine.
Mm-hmm.
It was not a suffering. It was not a self-induced suffering.
No.
You didn't start with drugs. You didn't start with any of that stuff. It was thrust upon you. Now, if you know your story of a hero, all heroes are ordinary people, and they have this adversity thrust on them. And that's what really brings out the heroic thing in there. And that's how I see you.
Thank you.
But it had to teach you something. This suffering had to teach you something along the way, because otherwise it's a very wasted opportunity.
Yeah.
So what do you think your suffering, the suffering of scars, has taught you?
I think for me, one thing is, like, to keep on going. and your trauma or your story that is like, affects you negatively doesn't have to define who you are as a person, because, there's so many different aspects and, things that go on within your life that, can make you become better, or just like help you be a better person. What happens throughout your life is like a strength, not a weakness.
I love it.
Thank
I
you.
love it. Dejah, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate this. And I think you've only just begun.
Oh, thank you.
And that's going to do it for this episode of the Suffering Podcast, The Suffering of Scars with Dejah-Maia DeJesus. And let's think about all the stuff that we learned. Trauma bonds us all. Words can definitely hurt. Wait for the outside to match the inside. Experience gives you certain tools. Trauma does not have to define you, but most importantly, one day your weakness has the ability to become your strength.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to do it for this episode. Don't forget to go to popple.com, put in the code TSP20 for a 20% discount on your digital business card. Follow us on all social media. That's LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, X, now on Rumble, and of course, OnlyFans. That's going to do it for this episode. Don't forget to follow me, Real Kevin Donaldson, and also follow the Suffering Podcast. And we'll see you on the next episode.